next step that pushed me to the boundary was I also I think probably like maybe within a quarter or so, I started working on a project that was IoT, which was Internet of Things at that time. So at that time, the thought process was, hey, you know what, Internet of Things is coming out. Intel was going to be building 1 million chips, and then these chips are going to be embedded in very, very tiny devices. These devices are going to be generating a bunch of data. And then I was thinking, and then I took a couple of classes then at MIT that talked about the fact that, well, if these embedded devices are generating so much information, you are never going to have a human that's going to be able to actually properly um, um, put together this information and make sense out of the information. And that taking that class, I think that was literally for me, it was that push that eventually saw me just say, you know what, I think the next big thing that's going to be happening is data science.
Hi, everyone. Today I have with me Raphael Taiwo. Raphael Taiwo is going to be sharing with us how he transitioned from a process engineering role to a machine learning engineering role. And he's going to be giving us the challenges that he went through while making such a switch and how he was able to overcome those challenges. He's going to be sharing with you guys the tips of how you also can transition from whatever field you are right now into a data related field. Okay. And also he's going to be sharing with us if the switch he made actually adds more money into his pocket. You know what I mean, guys? All right, guys, welcome with me, Raphael Taiwo. Hi, Raphael.
Hello, Yemi. How you doing?
I'm doing good. What about you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Sure,
On the
sure.
pod.
Thanks. Yes. Thanks for coming. So, Raphael, I think people want to really know who Raphael is. Just like I just mentioned, you crossed from process engineering to machine learning engineering. They want to know about that. How did you make such move? But before that, it would be good for folks to know your background. Talk about your elementary, whatever you can share, your background, from Africa or from where, and your education. Just give us a good journey about yourself.
Got it. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me once again. So I was born and bred in Nigeria for the most part, or for the initial part of my life. So I had my elementary education all in Lagos, and then eventually, I think the most interesting part started after my primary education. So after primary, secondary education. So my college, I did my college in Russia. So I got a scholarship, and that's where I did my first 4 year college. I did that in Russia, and then after that, then I transitioned here to the US, where I did my grad school. So I did grad school at Georgia Tech. So that's where I got my PhD in material science and engineering. And after that, I obviously entered into the working industry. But even during my working career, I also went back to school. So I've gone back to UC Berkeley, Go Bears. I know you're also an alumni too. And then I've also gone to Stanford to do multiple certificate programs as well as classes too in machine learning.
Wow, wow, that's a lot right there. So you had your high school in Nigeria and then you moved to Russia. What did you study in Russia?
So in Russia, I did chemical and biomolecular engineering as a bachelor's degree.
Chemical and biomedical engineering?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then you moved, and then your PhD, you did what again?
Material science and engineering.
Material science and engineering. Okay. So does that have anything to do with programming?
Good question. Very good question. I think because I think my college degree, even though it was chemical and biomolecular engineering, there was also a lot of focus on programming. Even while I was doing that, and I think that was where my love for programming actually started. My love for programming did not start with Python; it just started with computer programs in general. but it wasn't fully flushed out until I actually got into I started working at Intel. And that's when I was like, well, you know what? It seems like this is a passion of mine. And from there, that's when things started blossoming.
Okay, okay. So that means that when you were in college, you wouldn't call yourself a programmer,
No,
but
not at all.
not at all. Okay, you were really doing it as basically you just did it in class and that was it.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Which, and I think it's what most people that studied maybe electrical engineering and chemical engineering, that's probably all they did. Just took one or two programming classes and that was it. No practice after that. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So when you graduated from your PhD program, right? So what was after that? Where did you go after that?
Good question. So when I graduated from my PhD program, I spent a month to 2 months working for a startup, which was a startup that was championed by my advisor. So that was prior to my switching over to Intel. And then after that, I switched over to Intel. And then I worked at Intel for about 3, 4 years in different capacities. And it was during my work at Intel, actually, I think that was when this idea of, hey, you know what, you could transition to much more of I think my journey started out much more as hey, you know what, this is a data management or a better data management practice option, which is using Python to manage programs. And then from there, I was like, well, this could be better, this could be better. And then that was when it eventually blossomed into, hey, you know what, you go to school and kind of solidify have like a stamp that says that, you know what, I'm actually an expert in this. And then from there, that's when well, this could actually be a job too. And eventually, today, it's now basically my bread and butter.
Oh, awesome. So let's go back to your time at Intel. So when you got the job offer at Intel, what was the job? What was the job offer? What was the job role basically? What were you asked to do?
Good question.
What
Good
does the
question.
role
So
entails? Yes.
got it. Good question. Great question. So when I came into Intel, I was an integration engineer. So my role was to basically serve almost as, and I'm pretty sure most Intel employees know, serve almost as an overlord of the fab, whereby you are just you're getting information, collating information, and eventually making decisions as to, well, maybe there's a process that is causing an issue. Can you identify the process? Can you go after who's causing the process issue, and can you fix the process? And so during that period of time, that's when I think when I first got into Intel, that's when I worked on several different technologies, which are very, very old now. But I mean, so some technologies like I think interestingly, most of the technologies I worked on at that point in time were memory-based technology that were forerunners at that time, which obviously today they are not no longer forerunners, but those were the technologies I was working on and I was serving as an integration engineer. So you can think of that as maybe a person that just like say you are the tip of the funnel, you get all the information, eventually you make all the decisions regarding who to go after, who to go after, what is causing an issue, and then how to solve the issue.
Okay. Okay. Very good. So that means you were overseeing a lot of processes that was going on in the fab, right? But your role at that time was not a machine learning engineer. It was also not a data scientist, right? So you were basically overseeing process, making sure that things were going on correctly, right? Good. So now, how did eventually that you overloading all this process then becomes a data science job? Or how did it translate into you becoming a data scientist? And the reason I'm asking is because I'm sure there are some of our viewers right here that are also basically process engineers, or maybe they are mechanical engineers in their place of work, or maybe they are, integrators like in whatever form, whatever company they are. But they are already dealing, because you mentioned something right there previously that you were dealing with a lot of information. So they are probably dealing with a lot of information, but I think you got the formula. You were able to quickly translate it into something you wanted. right? So can you just explain that journey when you got into Intel, you got into integration role, and then they gave you some jobs or some projects, and those projects quickly translate into something that you have right now as a machine learning engineer. Can you really give us that journey? I think that will really help our viewers to be able to start picturing a lot of stuff in their head right now for them to be, if they want to have such transition.
Got it. Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, when you asking me that question now, it's just bringing back a lot of memories. Because I remember what I realized or what I remember happening during that time, which during the time I thought it was a lot of work that was being put on me. But in hindsight now, I'm like, whoa, like, you know what? Actually, those were really good work. I'm glad those happened because I remember because I was taking the lead integration role. Then I was also at a point in time too, they also asked me to take on yield analysis role. And as you know, yield analysis actually at Intel involved a lot of data processing. And but unfortunately, I think at Intel, I mean, or what was available at that point in time was a tool, and I wouldn't name the tool, but that tool is not just good enough, wasn't strong enough to provide you as much diversity of information analysis tools as you could potentially get outside. And so it was during that process of doing yield analysis that was the first step that I had at statistical analysis at Intel. So it was because I was taking an additional role as a yield engineer on the product that I was working on. And so after that, then the next step that pushed me to the boundary was I think probably like maybe within a quarter or so, I started working on a project that was IoT, which was Internet of Things at that time. So at that time, the thought process was, hey, you know what? Internet of Things is coming out. Intel was going to be building 1 million chips, and then these chips are going to be embedded in very, very tiny devices. These devices are going to be generating a bunch of data. And then I was thinking, and then I took a couple of classes then at MIT that talked about the fact that, well, if these embedded devices are generating so much information, you are never going to have a human that's going to be able to actually properly um, um, put together this information and make sense out of the information. And that taking that class, I think that was literally for me, it was the that push that eventually saw me just say, you know what, I think the next big thing that's going to be happening is data science. And if you think about this happened maybe 10 or maybe not 10, maybe like 7, 8 years ago when data science was still relatively new. Nobody even knew that much about that. But then I was like, well, I was like, if IoT blows up, this is going to be the next big thing. But obviously, IoT did not blow up as much, but data science still blew up itself. So, yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. So when you started thinking about that you really want to be at the forefront of data processing and all of that. So what steps did you take?
Good question. Yeah. So after that happened, actually, it was during that time that's when I made a switch from a lead integration role to an actual integration yield role. And so I was taking both an integrator as well as a yield. So the next product I worked in at Intel then, which was now a product that was in collaboration with another company, then was now as an integrator as well as a yield analysis engineer. And so I was taking those dual roles. And then eventually, my manager that I was working with then, I talked to him about eventually starting school and having kind of like a co-sponsorship with Intel. And so that was what took me back to school. So then I did a step of during my day, I did my day job, and then at night I did school. And so I did that for a year and a couple of months. And then after that, that's when I was like, okay, you know what? I got this now. I mean, even during that process, that's when I started seeing, that's when I think during that time, that was when data science was already becoming a phenomenon then. And then you already seeing people saying, hey, you know what, we want data science. So you could already see, even before I finished, the landscape was already open for many job offers, etc., and stuff like that. And so it was during that 1.5 year journey of going to Berkeley, continuing to do yield analysis as well as integration that I started building up that confidence. Because there's a bit of because I mean I think this what some people believe that maybe you become a data scientist overnight. But to me, I don't, at least for me, I didn't see it as an overnight thing. I saw it as a gradual journey, and me taking all those steps just built that confidence that, hey, you know what? I kind of feel like I'm a data scientist.
Awesome. So I think what I'm hearing right here is that at that point that you realized Internet of Things is going to be the big thing, it's going to be generate a lot of data, then you started aligning yourself to how you can also be in that data role, start preparing yourself. And because of that, you had to, step down as a lead integrator, start doing projects that involved a lot of data, right? Very good. And then from there, you now went back to school and all of that. Wow, that's an awesome, just for the sake of this video, can you let people also know what school that you went to study, and what did you study?
Yeah, so I
When you
went
went back to school.
when I went back to school, I went to University of California, Berkeley, and I did their MITS program, so Master's Degree in Information and Data Science. Yep, that was my first structured learning program in data science.
Yes, sir. Master's in data science, Master's in information and data science, right?
Data science, correct. Yeah.
Awesome. Very good, very good. So, when you then came out, because you mentioned right now, just a few minutes ago, that at that point when you were in school, that's when the data science started becoming, boom, that most companies started, asking for data scientists, right? So, so what company were you able to land a job when you got out of the MITS program?
Yeah, that's another great question. So for me, when I got out of MITS program, I actually I took a professional postdoctoral internship in San Francisco. So there's the company has folded up now, where they take you for like a 2-3 months intense productization program, whereby what you're building is an end-to-end product. So because because for me, when I came out of the data science program, what I realized was that I didn't want to be a data scientist. I actually wanted to be a machine learning engineer, which is as you can know, it's one step up. But I did not have at that point, I didn't have the necessary qualifications, or I believe I didn't have the necessary rigor to actually pursue machine learning. And so that was why I thought that 2-3 months was a very, very good kind of setup, because it was 3 months very intense. You had to go from A to Z. So basically, it's not just building data science from from a notebook. It was actually deploying it and then having that as a product that you can show either an API or a web interface that somebody can consume and see. And then and the goal eventually is now to have you present it like you're presenting a product. And so to me, that was the journey that took me from completing data science, doing the postdoctoral thing, and then within like maybe less than a month, I had a job offer with DocuSign.
DocuSign, very good. For the sake of this video, there are some folks that might probably be confused when you mention data science, that you didn't want to be a data scientist, that you wanted to be a machine learning engineer, but your degree was in data science. Can you clarify the difference, at least based on your industrial experience? I know in some companies, some folks might be data scientists, but they are the one doing everything. They are doing data engineering, they are doing data science, they are doing machine learning engineering. But for the sake of this video, can you, just put some light into the difference between data science and machine learning engineering?
Correct. Awesome. That's a very good question. So I had a lot of struggle with this actually, roles, etc. When you're defining job roles. So if you want to put it in silos, you can think of a data scientist as almost as the research piece of a company when you're thinking of a data product. So when you have a product concept, hey, you know what? I want to build a recommendation engine for my product. Now, when you say you want to do that, the first person that goes into action is a couple of people. Number one, the data engineer, who helps you to piece together, okay, where do I even get the data, right, for something like this, right? So piece together the pipeline for that. And then once the pipeline is built for this information to flow in, then you now think of a data scientist who's now the person that said, well, I have all this data. Can I build something, an algorithm, in most cases, either an LLM or a chat GPT or whatever, that can take this data and be able to give me a meaningful result that will help my product need, which is becomes a problem statement. And so that's a data scientist. Now, a data scientist, like you said, a data scientist job does not need to end there. But in some companies, you have this well-structured organization whereby they say, hey, you know what, the data scientist job ends once they're able to give you an algorithm that can perform at 95% accuracy and or some value for recall, etc. Now, the machine learning engineer's job is now to take what that data scientist has given and then convert that into a productionizable algorithm. So if you think of it, you have a deep learning neural network. You need to be able to understand, well, does this require GPU acceleration? Is this going to run in real time or is this going to run as a batch process? Also, how do I ensure that all the information that the data engineer pieced together is available in real time for me to be able to make an inference? So the machine learning engineer is the person eventually that builds this kind of architecture and then says that, hey, you know what? We are now ready to take this algorithm and then serve it to our customer. So basically, he's the one looking at the concept that is now ML ops. So he's the one looking at the ops environment of how to eventually take this and then serve it to a million customers. You can think of the data scientist as serving it to himself, and the ML engineer now saying, I'm going to take that and I'm going to serve it to a billion customers.
Very good, very good. No, thank you so much. That's really lovely. I'm sure folks now that doesn't really know the difference now, they will, have an idea of what we are talking about right here. Thank you for that. Now, I'm sure that when you were trying to transition into machine learning engineering, I'm sure you must have faced some challenges. Do you have some challenges you probably want to share with us, and how, if anyone that you remember that you can remember how you were able to scale through those challenges?
Good question. Good question. So first thing first, I mean, like I said before, so so you become a data scientist. So the MATES program is awesome enough to make you a really good data scientist, right? And so you're able to do that and stuff like that. Now, to take it one step further, which was what I wanted to be like a machine learning engineer, I needed to have that end-to-end experience. Oh, can I take a model? Can I take this model, deploy it or quantize it or do whatever I can to it, and then develop it to an API and then serve it to a customer so that the customer can see what I've done. I mean, going through that process, that entire life cycle itself will give you an understanding of the complexity, right, beyond just data science that happens. And so those pinpoints that I think of, I mean, when I look back, number one, definitely is just building software, building and maintaining common software engineering practices. Because I think, I mean, especially transitioning from hardware to software, it's not an overnight thing, because I mean, as much as software, I mean, hardware powers software, the mindset that you need for tackling a hardware problem is different from the mindset that you have for tackling a software problem. And data science to me is almost like is research, while software engineering, which kind of tapers more into like machine learning, is actually more this is software engineering. So you're understanding like parallelization, understanding all the data, data algorithms and other concepts of like programming, etc. Those come much more into play when you are dealing with machine learning versus when you're dealing with data science, because your code at that point in time needs to be optimized, right? You need to optimize for latency, you need to optimize for, I mean, whatever has to be done, because you're now serving a million customers, etc. So there's a lot more emphasis at that point in time on your software engineering practices, which can be a really huge stumbling block, especially people transitioning from literally from being a hardware engineer to this thing, machine learning, or going even from data science to being a machine learning engineer.
Good. So what would you say that you then did that was able to help you to overcome those challenges? Because it seems like what I'm hearing is that there was this challenge of you transitioning from hardware to software, trying to really conceptualizing the whole idea of the life cycle of, the building models, or let's say ML life cycle or AI life cycle, right? So it seems like those were problems. So what were the things that you think you did? I know you said you went to school. Was there some other things that you did that you think prepared you for even the job that you got at DocuSign as a machine learning engineer?
Good question. Yeah, so for sure, I would say definitely, yeah, going to school helped, but beyond that, taking external projects. So there were a bunch of external projects that I just did, just for the fun of it, of like, okay, well, I mean, I can take this product, I can try to map it around and see if I can eventually build an API out of it from scratch. Apart from taking structured education, I did a lot of unstructured education. I did a lot of classes from Udemy. I did a lot of classes from Udacity, etc. Those are really helpful because some of those classes actually have very good pipelines already built, and then you can kind of see and put pieces together of, well, this is the model, this is what you're going to do after the model is ready, etc., and stuff like that. But in addition to that, to the postdoctoral program too that I did, professional postdoctoral program too, also helped a lot because, like I said, it was a 3 month intense program. You have like 50 other guys from various universities across the world put together in the same room, and your goal is to eventually all of you build a product. So to me, that was a 3 months that was well spent because you tend to understand product. Because what I realized coming out of school is that product itself is coming out of school was that I didn't understand the concept of product, but in that 3 months, it was like, hey, you know what? The customer eventually is the one that is going to use your product as a data scientist. So you want to make sure that the customer gets your product. And I think that understanding that concept was a lot quicker when I was able to go through that program. And I mean, I also remembered spending actually sometimes also at UC Berkeley itself, the school, because I had to go back and go learn from because they had like during that time, I think it was probably they had programs where you can come in and you're kind of like almost like doing a coding exercise, just so you can understand how um um how um how a software engineer thinks. And so I had to go through several of those just to get an understanding of, okay, well, this is what you need to think about when you're writing your code. I mean, how to optimize your code, I mean, etc. So data structure and algorithms, etc. So it was a mix of professional in the sense of the professional postdoc as well as unstructured, and then some sitting in school at UC Berkeley.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Wow, thank you so much. You've had a lot of experience right there. So you worked at DocuSign as a machine learning engineer, and then what next? What after that?
Good question. Yeah. So I mean, learning never stops, like, right, for sure, right? So while I was at DocuSign, definitely I was working under probably some of the best engineers I've ever worked under. And I mean, there were some engineers that I'm just like, I mean, till today I still like have respect for them. And I think I learned a lot just about software. I mean, I brought to the table obviously a lot of machine learning experience, but that was where I understood that, yeah, you know what, machine learning does not live in vacuum, right? So machine learning always talks to some other product here, some other product there. So the entire integration of everything together, that was what I kind of like. I think that's something that I took away definitely from DocuSign. But when I was also at DocuSign too, that was when I started because as we are well aware, this field is changing so fast. When I finished, I'm at 2018, there was no, the concept of ChatGPT or generative AI did not exist, right? And now generative AI is literally the whole, and if you talk about machine learning right now, they're like, oh, is it Gen AI, etc., and stuff like that. So the this field is so dynamic that even after I finished school and I was working, I was still going back to school. So I was taking a lot of classes from Stanford because they have really good classes on either reinforcement learning or meta learning or graph neural networks, etc. So I was still going back there and taking a lot of classes just so I can continue to have my skills up to date.
Okay, good. So can you share what company are you at? Are you still at DocuSign?
No. I left DocuSign a little close to a year ago. So right now I now work at SAP, the principal AI scientist.
At SAP. Very good. Can you said you work as a principal AI scientist right now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wow, that's
Yes.
fantastic. Someone that was a process engineer just a few years ago went back to school, knew what he wanted, went back to school, gathered a lot of knowledge, went for a postdoctoral program for about 3 months, built a fantastic product, went to DocuSign as a machine learning engineer, and then now a principal AI scientist at SAP. How did you do it? How did you move from a machine learning engineering role and got a role as a principal AI scientist? I'm sure there are some folks right now that are also machine learning engineers. They also want to be a principal AI scientist. What are the things that you think you worked on that really helped you?
Good question. Good question. Definitely communication is one key skill. I mean, because eventually, whatever you do, you're going to be interacting with individuals. You're going to be interacting with folks who are software engineers. Like I said, this field does not live in vacuum. This field interacts with other fields that are already well established. Machine learning is still relatively new compared to software engineering and software engineering practices. So, as a machine learning engineer, you need to be open to the fact that you will be influenced, and you will have to adopt software engineering practices into your own machine learning practice that you're building to be able to serve your product to your customers. So that understanding of, I mean, communication as well as being open, obviously, like I kind of hinted at, being open to emulating other practices that are well established is there. Number three is also you have to constantly be ready to learn. Like I said, this field is not stopping. Gen AI is here today. I mean, only God knows what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know, right? So we need, I mean, sharpening your skill has to be like a number one priority. You're not just going to become a data scientist and that's it. No, you're going to continue sharpening your skills. And once you continue doing that, then opportunities are going to open up eventually for you. And then obviously looking for opportunities whereby you can show your knowledge or at least publish your knowledge in some way. And so I do a lot of patent writing. I mean, so any ideas that I know is this is a top-notch idea, I look for opportunities to get patents. So that's my own way of basically thinking of showing my own or publishing my own ideas for people to see, etc. Other people have like blogs that they write, some people publish in journals, I mean, etc. and stuff like that. But having that way to kind of show your own expertise definitely carries a lot of merit behind it eventually as you go on your career journey. And so those are some of the ways I mean, I think about communication, obviously interpersonal skills. I mean, being able to like talk to people normally and just being a normal person. I mean, a cool and a normal person, easy to work with, etc. I think they go a long way in helping propel a person in their career. And it goes not just for machine learning, I think it probably goes for all type of job descriptions.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. Hey, Raphael, semiconductor is becoming a big thing more than ever before right now. I'm sure you knew that. ChatGPT came out and everybody was like, this definitely has been running on GPUs. And now everybody wants more GPUs, right? Semiconductor is becoming a big thing. So would you say you regretted ever leaving your semiconductor job to becoming a machine learning engineer in a non-semiconductor company?
Very, very good question. Very good question. Yeah, I would say, I mean, I don't think I have any regret whatsoever because to me, I still feel both. And even today, I still use my hardware skills to power my going to production because you cannot dissociate both of them from each other, right? Because the basically the software, which is, I mean, when I mean software, I mean all our machine learning, ChatGPT, they are powered by the hardware, right? Because if you don't have any GPUs, guess what? Your CPU is not going to be able to power any of the ChatGPT like interfaces. So the advances we actually have or have done over the years in hardware is what has brought us here today. And I think that changing changing field 8 years ago was definitely the right thing to do, because at that point in time, hardware was not the limitation. It was the actual algorithm that was the limitation. Today, now, with the advent of ChatGPT, now we are seeing the reverse, whereby now hardware is the limitation now, and because the GPT is there, it's just the hardware that is just. But then, if you think of it, so there's probably only a couple of players in the field right now for hardware. So you have NVIDIA, you have maybe TSMC, Intel, AMD. So there's only a very few number of players there. But for software or for businesses that use this hardware to power up products, there's a lot of them. So I still think the opportunity that presents itself for you as a machine learning engineer, I think it's still a lot more in the software space. But if you can get into the hardware, like get into NVIDIA, which is now like a close to $3 trillion company, why not? I mean, those are very good companies, but it's just that there's not that many of them compared to the software companies.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. One question I would like to ask is, from what you know now, because we all, as we grow, we learn new things. We learn things that will be like, maybe I shouldn't have done it this way. Are there things, because now you have gone ahead of so many people now. So many people now, they want to learn from you. So are there things that you are thinking now that I should have done it differently? Because now the mistake that you made, we don't want our audience to make such mistake. Can you remember of some of those things, one or two, that you probably think, oh, I should have done it this way versus doing it this way?
Yeah, correct. I mean, I think in my career in general, I mean, for me, what I've learned over the years, and I want people to obviously learn from it. I mean, if they can, is I've learned to make work not as do not be too emotionally invested in something that it becomes almost like a stumbling block for you to letting it go. Because what happens is that sometimes you're in a project and you're so invested, I mean, in that project, like this is it. And so you don't basically, it's almost like you pigeonhole yourself. And that pigeonholing yourself, it's good because I mean you're focused. But what happens is that then other opportunities just fly by you because of the fact that you're just pigeonholed. So, I mean, if there's one thing I can tell people is that, you know what, when you're emotionally invested in a project, I mean, maybe it's okay to be emotionally invested, but I mean, do pick out of that pigeonhole sometimes, because you can find other opportunities that might even give you better avenues for growth. And so just having that mindset, I think is going to help a lot of people, a lot of engineers in any field. I mean, this applies to all job descriptions, I believe, or job situations. But to me, I felt it was, if there was something I would have done better, is just being less emotionally invested and being open to other opportunities that are available to me in general.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's really a very good advice, and that's what also happens to most of us, when we build products, and then eventually your internal customers or even your external customers, they don't like your product. You always want to find ways to convince them and all of that they should use it, right? You don't want to let go. Instead of you to get their feedback and build a better product, you still want to push that
Yep.
on them, right? Yeah. No, thanks for that advice. So I wanted to ask this, because at the end of the day, there are different reasons why we make switch, right? And I'm thinking in my mind right now that I think the number one reason, maybe I'm wrong, is that we make switch to a new field because we want to earn a better paycheck. But of course, we need to get this knowledge so that we can be able to get that job that will give us a better paycheck. So can you, tell us within 2 to 4 years that you made that switch? what impact did that make on your paycheck? Do you think that if you were still within your previous role and you were growing from there upward, do you think you would have also made such paycheck compared to what you are making right now? I think it's good for folks to really understand. Yes, if you want to share your paycheck, that's fine, but I'm not really saying, share it right here, but telling us the impact. That way, the audience that also wants to invest some time, some effort, and some money, they can really understand what they stand to gain now in terms of monetary, and in the future in terms of maybe they even start their own product-based company, that kind of a thing. And then maybe their company can worth millions of dollars. I'm just saying, can you just tell us how does it impact your paycheck?
Good question. Good question. Yeah. I think it's so if I continue with my role, yeah, you get almost like a linear increase over time. But I think once I made the switch, it was even from day one, it was almost like it was definitely an exponential increase, and the exponent, the degree of the exponent itself over the years is even much much more. So because the skills, because like I said, you're continuing to build your skills. And maybe what I also wanted to tell people is that yes, we're making this switch because obviously there's a financial listing, but you also make the switch because you love it. Because if you make the switch because you love it, there is nothing that's going to stop you from getting that financial benefit eventually from it, right? So, but if you love it and you make that switch, I think the financial benefit is definitely way, way more. And I think it's also kind of true for many transitions that happen. So if you make a transition from one industry to another industry, that is either more competitive or is has more avenue for growth. If you can make that switch and you make it at the right time, you are destined to eventually start moving up that ladder much, much faster, right? And plus, when you make such switch like that, you're not coming in from a person who has been in the industry for a long time. You're coming in also with a different perspective, which may even have better impact. Because when I came into this field, I'm coming in with like a hardware engineering mindset. And so when you're thinking of like things that you're taking to production, you're like, well, man, did you think of this Intel CPU, or did you think of this Intel GPU, or did you think of this FPGA, blah, blah, blah. So it gives you much more leverage because now you're talking much more like a person who is as knowledgeable in hardware and is also doing machine learning. So you come with that on its own is a benefit because you're able to you're almost like you're now like a jack of all trades. And so you stand to become much to get faster up that promotional ladder than other people. So yeah, the impact is significant, very, very significant.
Wow. Wow. So folks, if you are hearing that right now, you are still procrastinating, either you should switch or not, you can hear what Raphael just said. Make sure you love it. And then if you love it, then you're going to see that significant increase, that exponential increase in your paycheck. Wow. Is there something you want to tell those that are even still procrastinating? I think it's always good for us to hammer on it very well for those that have been saying, oh, I want to switch to a data science role. I want to switch to a data engineering role. I want to switch to software role. I want to switch to machine learning role. But they've been saying it for the past 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but they are not really doing anything. I think I want us to hammer on that very well right now. They still come to me, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. But yet, I still don't see them doing it. But you have got a lot of experience right here. In less than 1 minute, can you give some advice right there for those that are still procrastinating? What do they need to just do right now?
Okay, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think what I can say is, if you love it, do it. Because if you don't do it, if you think that it's already too late, 2 years from now, it's going to still be too late. 5 years from now, it's still going to be too late. So it's never too late as long as you still have that opportunity to do it. I want to say, yeah, please do it. If it's something that you're passionate about, that you really and you've seen other people do it and you love it, talk to people. Talk to you. Talk to me or find other people. Talk to them about job looks like. If that still resonates with you, then do it. I know for most people too, it's always like, well, I mean, having to go back to school is a lot of work, etc., and stuff like that. It is a lot of work. I would not say that. Like combining both work as well as school, it was a lot of work. It is also a lot of additional financial burden too. But like I said before, the reward that you get from it overweighs all the financial and or emotional burden that you have to just endure for 2 years. Because yeah, so if anybody is like thinking, if anybody here today loves it, what I want to say is that there is always light at the end of the tunnel. Take that baton, go to school, go back to school. That's what I always tell people because I love structured learning program. Go back to school, get that additional degree, get those experiences that will eventually make you to transition easily to a data science. Because this field right now, some people say this field is already saturating. I say this field is just beginning. I mean, you think of ChatGPT. ChatGPT is less than a year old. And already ChatGPT is already defining jobs that we never even knew existed. There's prompt engineering, there is LLM ops, there is so I mean to me, I feel this field is just beginning. So if you delay this year, say that it's too late to get into the field, 2 years from now, you're still going to say it's too late. 5 years from now, you're going to be saying, so you're just going to be coming, basically, you're holding yourself back. So just do it. That's my advice.
Very good, very good. I think I have two more questions for you. Folks want to know, how long did it take you to make this transition from that time that you thought about it when you were at Intel? You thought about it and then you started working your way towards it, because some folks, they just want to, spend 3 months on Udemy and then they think that maybe it works out for some people, but not for many people, right? But, from your own experience. And again, that's why I want to be bringing many more people into this platform to share their experience, because we know that people have different kinds of experience. Yours experience in making this transition is different from some other folks, right? And you have just shared yours, right? Which is really very fantastic. So how long would you say it took you from that very first time that you talked about this, just sort of approximate, until when you got your actual first machine learning job?
Wow. So I want to say, so definitely took 2 years. So during all the school time at this thing at Berkeley, and then while I was at Intel too, probably took like a 1 year. So I would say probably maybe like a 3 year phase. So like 3 to 4 year phase, because there is the time when I decided, hey, I wanted to do this, and then I had to structure my job so that it included more of data analysis. And then during that phase too, I was learning Python. Learning all this data science and unstructured, and then eventually transitioning to a structured approach, which was going back to Berkeley, which took like I think a year, a couple of, maybe 8 months or so, and then doing the postdoctoral program. And then after that, that was when I was able to land a job. So it was like a 3 to 4 year journey for me.
Awesome, awesome. Very good. Thanks for giving us that, that mile that you had to walk. But just that at every point you were learning, you were improving, you were doing something. You weren't just folding your hands. You were harming yourself, carrying all the different things that you need, empowering yourself along the way. And look at you right now, a principal AI scientist. Wow, that is huge. That is huge. Hey, Raphael, last question right here. I know I've asked a lot of questions and you have really answered. But before we go into that, hey guys, if you find all this information or this session valuable, please go ahead right now and subscribe to our channel right now if you have not subscribed, okay? And make sure you click on that like button and also comment on this video, because it's your like and your comment that helps the YouTube algorithm to know that you guys are finding all these valuable, and then we can have more subscribers and more views, okay? Because the more you guys do this, the more we are motivated to bring more people to this channel. And then if you're also out there and you have been able to transition from whatever field that you were in, some sort of engineering or non-technical field, and you have been able to transition into software engineering, data engineering, machine learning engineering, or data science, or even data analyst, and you want us to feature you in our channel in such interview like this, so that folks can also learn from you, please ping me on my YouTube channel. You can as well just send an email to tuplespectra@gmail.com. tuplespectra@gmail.com. Just include your LinkedIn profile link so that I can, connect with you. You could also connect with me on LinkedIn. You're going to see my LinkedIn profile at the description below. Contact me and let us also have you on our platform so that more people can also learn from you, so that we can impact lives positively. Let us change lives for good, guys. All right, thank you. Hey, Raphael. Sorry about that. We got to do that. All right. So one last question. I know you have said a lot, but what one more advice would you like to give my viewers right here before I let you go?
Yeah, I think the final advice I would want to give is let's stay thirsty, continue to learn. Learning never stops. I mean, in whatever field you're in, give it 100%. And yes, if you give it 100%, you don't stop learning. I think any field you can definitely achieve much in any field. Some fields obviously better than others, but you can achieve a lot in any field. So stay thirsty and give it your 100%. And I think everything else will follow accordingly.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Ralph. Hey, guys, Ralph has really given us a lot right here. Watch this video as many times as you want so that you can digest everything that he has said and go thirsty. Go start working all these things out. Okay? Just have that grit right here, guys, and just keep learning, keep improving. Okay? All right, guys. I'll see you guys next week when I'm going to publish another video for you guys. Bye.
Bye, guys.